Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels. Another week without Kyle.
But we still got an original with us.
Yeah, the countdown continues. We do. We got David Endless Zelenka.
Hello.
Oh,
The man,
snap.
the myth, the legend.
Wait, I thought I was the myth and the legend.
That was last week when it was just me and you. But now that I got
Oh, man.
somebody more important.
Wow.
man.
Oh, that's rough,
Savage.
man.
And,
I don't think I'm more important than John, for the record. But
and my second most important co-host.
first rule of improv: don't contradict your improv partner.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't do that.
Is Mr. Bushfacts himself,
I guess that's me.
who was
How's it
telling
going?
us how important facts were to him right before we started this. So
They are.
it's going good. All right, let's jump into housekeeping real quick. So as we say every week, come join us on Patreon. You can help support all this great content we're putting out, all the writers, all that stuff, and listen to a whole nother podcast that we have. Also, if you're interested in narrative campaign, we have our Stormtide campaign still going strong. Right now, we are in the midst of monsters, which is a big deal, and it's pretty crazy, and it's only getting crazier from here, trust me. So very excited about that. And then, David, what do you got? You got anything for Yavin Base?
Just wanted to say that I run the channel Yavin Base, twitch.tv/Yavin Base. I run the Yavin Base Team League, which is going on right now. We're going to be doing some streams. I also wanted to say congratulations to Sarmem for winning the limited edition Luke that we gave away during the Invader League final, which you're gonna be talking about on a different episode, if I'm not mistaken.
We would have already talked about it.
That's right.
Wink.
Wink.
We are so on this night that we're recording this, I'm actually recording two podcasts, and they're a bit out of order, but yes, we would have already. So you could talk about it, David, like the
Okay.
Invader League final if you want.
Yeah, not right now, but yeah, soon.
Okay, well, David's not up for it, and this is turning out great. Go ahead and talk about it. Nah, I'm good.
No, I mean, well, this is a later part of the show, Jay.
All right, David.
We're still in housekeeping. We gotta keep this. We gotta keep this outline on track, man. I'm just trying to keep the show on track.
So
It's the Wild West. We just
yeah.
shoot from the hip here.
No, Kyle. It's no rules. So David, we
Yes.
Team League, right, is starting ish.
We took a break for Christmas.
Yep.
And we're starting the second round. And it's not clear who the front runners are just yet. It will be clear after this round because there'll be 2 games played, and so we'll see who's 2-0.
Nice.
And basically, we're just waiting for that third round to finish so we can figure out who's going on to the elimination phase.
Okay.
I haven't really focused on it since Christmas, so I have to look at the list to tell you what's being played. But people are definitely like trying out new things with Empire. Yeah. There was a list with 3 snowtroopers that got submitted, I think, with ions.
Oh,
so people are definitely like, it's because of the way that we do the pairing of players. It's because you get to like respond if you're blue player or red player based on what map is present. So, if someone drops a droid list and you happen to have a triple ion snow list in your pocket, you as the captain could be like, yeah, we're going to put that triple ion snow against your list. Have fun with that. Yeah. And so there's like, it's a little bit of the nature of the beast, and it always sucks to be the player on the receiving end of that skew. But the good news is there's 4 other people on your team that can still win. Yeah. So even if you have to take a hard loss sometimes, it's not the end of the story, right, for your team. So that's always nice to have that. And plus, it makes for really dramatic games on camera when you have broad skews. Like, can he survive against this the storm of ions? Will the CIS manage to prevail? You get like some storylines out of it, and some more like dramatic lists than you normally would see that are like more middle of the road. It's like he's got 6 stormtroopers, meh.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. In my experiences with Team League and what I've seen, what the one matchup that I think no one has really seemed to figure out, and maybe they have this season, but as I've always found, like if you're running a double heavy list, you always end up getting paired up against another double heavy list. And it's like that's not right. The double heavy should never be paired up against another double heavy. That's not where they do the most work. They should be I love going against rebels.
But I can see how double heavy is always the counter to double heavy.
Yeah.
If someone lays down in YBTL with double heavy, me as a team captain, I'm like, I don't want to subject any of my other lists to that. Right. I'm going to subject the other double heavy to it.
Yeah.
And they can duke it out. It's got the best chance.
Yeah, so
I can see that.
Say someone drops double AT. Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
Well, I was going to say the problem with that is it's always a 50-50 flip.
Yeah.
That's it's like I don't know.
Skill, right?
Yes, but at the end of the day, the lists are so like
just roll better.
Similar, yeah. me and TTS Roland do not get along at all.
It's all random number generator. It's all fair now.
yeah, sure. That's what they want you to think.
Oh man,
the Matrix doesn't have you at all, David.
Nope.
Oh man.
Oh man. I have absolute faith in probability and the law of large numbers.
There you go.
If we ever get there.
Yeah.
If we can ever get to a large number. That's always the struggle with games where you don't roll dice often, is that if you have only a few dice rolls, suddenly the luck matters a great deal. As opposed to games where there's only rolling, if like everybody's attacking all at once, then you get to like law large numbers and attrition and things like that. But if you're only doing, small things like, oh, this sniper shot is actually quite significant because it might put another wound on Luke Skywalker or something like that, then it's like, oh man, I'm really sad that he rolled double hit and didn't roll hit miss or whatever.
He must not have been rolling with Empire snipers because it would have been Miss Surge.
Yes, it would have been Miss Surge or
Double Surge.
Double Surge, yeah.
Jeez.
Games like X-Wing deal with small dice pools all the time. And I mean, they're rolling 3 dice is like a decent attack. Yeah. And then 3 dice defense is amazing.
Yeah. And then you have like, what is it, the TIE Defender? That can change defense dice.
I don't know the 2.0 stuff.
Yeah, so in 2.0, like I think evade now lets you change a die to an evade, and then focus does what it normally does. And, and you've also got like, there's even like Darth Vader in a defender, so he's got the Force, which is also a weighted modified dice.
Yeah.
So you just
they have a lot more modifications of dice.
They do.
Yeah,
that's true. X-Wing is or Legion. It's just aims to rerolls.
Right. There's a few ways to stack those, but they're kind of, they take your entire list really to do it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a good housekeeping, boys. We did it.
Yeah.
All right. 1 down, 2 to go.
1 down. All right. So what I wanted to do was, there are a number of tournaments upcoming, both in real life and other, I suppose. And I kind of wanted to talk, with the new rules, with the new erratas and all of that, what people should be expecting, how they should be getting ready, etc., etc. So I think the first thing I wanted to talk about is list building. You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. So here's the question for the both of you. Do you build for a bid now with the new rules?
I do not. But then again, I didn't before. So
all right,
let's hear what David has to say, and then I'll comment after.
I only build for it if my battle deck is important and I don't care about the side of the board I land on, which is often difficult, especially if I'm running a Jedi.
Yeah.
So I think Jedi they have a problem here because they want like good terrain because you're putting a lot of eggs into a single model basket that needs to hide, but you also are trying to avoid certain missions.
Burst of speed mitigates that a little bit.
That's
you get
true.
an extra 4 inches to your move one time.
Yeah.
Try and zoom across the map.
Or if you're Yoda and do standby sharing.
Yeah, Yoda. Yeah, geez.
People are going to notice a theme with me in that list because that list, oh, it's so stinky. It's the stinky cheese of Legion right now. It's so nasty. But anyway, the question was, do you bid? It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we've crossed the threshold where we bid for red, man. I don't know if that's the thing.
I did choose red 3 times at New Orleans.
Okay.
I had the bid with like a 1, or I think I might have had a 3-point bid or 4-point, and I was blue player, or I got to choose, and I chose red 3 times.
Wow.
Maybe 4. Just because the battle deck is a lot less significant now that no one objective can be forced on you.
Right.
There's still bad matchups, but you could always avoid any one thing. So if that's not a big deal to me, my list felt pretty rounded, then yeah, I'll choose the board edge that I like better.
So the question is, I guess, to David's point, right? So the bidder, whoever has the lower points, gets to choose. So do you bid for the choice?
Red.
Yeah. And do you bid for the choice though now?
I think that's an open question.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are kind of like in their gut saying, you know, if I'm going for blue, I have a particular strategy focused around blue and not terrain dependent. So like, for example, let's say you're running double T47, right? Your T47s are by and large ignoring the terrain. And if you're playing double T47, you want your battle deck because you're going to run bombing run. And so that's a list that can still like bid for blue.
Here's the thing though, if you're blue and it's your battle deck, like you can't force any objective ever. Like the red player will, if blue does their last veto so that bombing run is up, red can easily say, no, I'm not letting bombing run happen. And they get, because red gets last veto.
Right.
So red can just get rid of it.
Right. So those strategies are weakened now. They did that on purpose to weaken it.
Yeah.
So but it's it might be a weak strategy now. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I also think that now granted, I've only played one tournament, right, where these new rules have been enforced. And I found that even some of those, like I played a double Staps and AAT droid list, and I found that like none of my choices were great, right? Like bombing run, breakthrough, like I was just like, oh god. Like,
yeah. There's, if that's true.
Yeah.
If those two like line up, then yeah, that's probably unfortunate for you.
Yeah.
It takes multiple favorable objectives.
Yeah.
There's still like that's what I was going to say to your point, John. There's still like a strong nexus between blue player and sabotage, bombing run, and breakthrough. There's still like a nexus there that can be worked with.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 of them.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 are being good, are pretty good, and then the last one is like probably payload or something where you can rush them down with your skew.
Yeah.
You can make things bad for your opponent that way, but again,
AAT that just sits on the payload. Like, how are you going to get it off?
Yeah,
you can't. Yeah, you can actually like park your you can even park your AAT and then wave the payload and just like laugh. Yeah, because you're just like, no.
I played payload against double AAT once. It was miserable.
Oh god, yeah, it's the worst. Lists like double AAT make me stop wanting to run Wookiees so much because it's like they just,
what do you do? Yeah,
they just kind of laugh at you and say, you know, your swords bounce off my armor.
Yeah,
and then you try to get close to me and I just ping you with my giant
Wookiees
gun.
need RAM.
Clearly they need a buff. They need speed 3 is what they need.
Yeah, I would say that any even like I played a double ATST list and that was really good against Wookiees with the do back counter. on the other side, so I had double ATST, double 2-back.
Yeah, you smack them down with your dues if they don't engage you first, and even then, it's really rough.
Yeah.
And plus, they can't hurt armor.
Right.
They can't
The
hurt armor.
bowcaster is pretty good. If you get range 2 bowcaster shot,
Yeah,
where you've got the 8 dice with impact and pierce,
right.
that loves red armor.
So now you're at what, 3? With that, you're at 3 crits because you've rolled 1 naturally and you're forcing another, and then you have impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean you're at range 2, so maybe you've also got a weak point by then.
Oh, that's true. That's fair.
Yeah, I think it's easier
with pierce, like you're gonna get most of it through.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get some damage through. I'm thinking the ATST though with 11 health.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot. Yeah, I was gonna say it's a lot easier.
No one plays ATSTs.
No one good, anyways.
No one yet.
Yeah.
No one plays them yet.
I think like number 5 or 6 at New Orleans was ATSTs.
Yeah, there was an ATS. I think there was an ATST list with saboteurs.
Yeah.
Which is like, what's wild, man?
Well, and I think we'll talk about this, but I think that's ATSTs is one of those units that doesn't care about terrain as much, because even if your opponent's getting favorable terrain, they stand so high that most of the time they can see over it. And so even with Wookiees like trying to get into that range 2 to pull their shenanigans there, it's like, okay, but you're gonna lose some stuff before you get here. Like just as a heads up.
4th place was double ATST. Scott Combs with
Good job,
Bosk
Scott.
and a full saboteur. Full team saboteur. 4-1.
Wow. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's still up. Do you bid or not? I think it's highly dependent on lists now, right? And what? Yeah.
I think
those skew lists want it.
The choice that requires the least thought is red, which is something that you should keep in mind. You should always keep in mind the choices that are take the least mental energy, because you have to conserve that energy over 4 games in a tournament.
Yeah, that is
the less mental energy you can spend on this, the better, probably.
On that first turn, right? That turn 0. That's when things are the most dicey. And that's the way I kind of play, is because I've never been great at turn 0. So I try to build lists that just don't care about it and are more like, I'm just going to murder you. And then you worry about turn 0 and like coming for this stuff. Like,
so Jay, why aren't you playing double T47 triple Wookiee?
Who says I'm not?
Who says I'm not?
So we have an event coming up in February up here, the Canto Bite event, and
nice.
I for sure have 2 T47s, 3 Wookiees, and definitely 2 Tauntauns put together. And I'm working on a combination of said.
If I could afford to slip in another convention between Adepticon and LVO, I would go. Yeah, 100%. I would go. That event looks like it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's at a good place.
I will be there.
Though unfortunately, it's in the middle of February in upstate New York, which is pretty hit or miss. John was like, what's the temperature going to be up there? I'm like, -20, maybe. Like, there's a real solid chance.
Never experienced that much in my life.
Yeah.
I've been down to like -10, I think. -20.
Oh yeah, because we got that famous wind show.
Is it like the movie Day After Tomorrow where the flag just freezes as it's blowing?
Yeah, and
that happened.
That happens all the time.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I figured.
You can store your meat outside.
Yeah. It's like the kids to get on the bus. They just got to sprint full speed at the bus. Otherwise they freeze on their way there. So it's,
We cook our eggs on the sidewalk. You store your meats on the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Half the time anytime you have a party during the winter up here, just the outdoors is your cooler. So it's where everything goes,
Yeah. Just stick that beer into a snowbank.
That's
For
right.
real.
That's exactly right.
No koozies.
All right. So here I think might be the tougher question. With that said, with the changes, with the errata, with whether or not we're going to bid, how has list building changed, if at all?
There's a lot more viable lists out there.
Yeah,
A
it's
lot,
broader.
like a stupid, like so many.
Yeah, it's we're in this
Great.
weird. Yeah, it's great, and we're in this weird like I don't know how to say it. I think there's like two major strains of thought, which is like the first one is you need lots of melee because it's suddenly a lot harder to keep melee away from you with like burst of speed and transports and Wookiees. You know, the whole like post AA5, mindset where it's like I gotta have melee or I'm dead
Hmm.
because the Wookiees just come in and I die. My gun line gets chewed up. And then there's the other thought, which is like if I have enough firepower and I have enough like smart range management and a good deployment, I can play that kind of like hold them away from me ranged method, where what sort of like the old school, range 4 plink kind of school thought.
Yeah.
But it's really tough because if you don't come prepared to handle burst of speed or some close range strategy, you're kind of going to just lose, is my feeling.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's self-perpetuating, right? Like the more, I mean, Wookiees have been around for a while. Some
Right.
stuff's changed more recently, right? That's duelist and all that has made them better, but it's not like they're new. It's just we know we're using them differently now, which is then perpetuating other lists to make sure they have melee units, which is and it just keeps like building this,
Right.
Yeah,
Snowballs.
yeah,
And then you had the buffs to like Vader
yeah,
and burst of
Vader.
speed on top of it. So it's like the game as a result, I think, becomes more dynamic
Hmm.
because a lot of it is like initiative based. And so things like initiative get really valuable if you're playing like Wookiees who are notoriously fragile in melee. Well, once they get in, I mean, they're pretty fragile because they have only a 6, or I keep calling it a 6-up save. That's Warhammer speak for only saves on a block on a white dice. But yeah, initiative becomes really important, and units like Krennic get better because cunning is really really good on Vader,
Hmm.
for example, or sorry about the mess with seize the initiative on Luke Skywalker, or something like
Who does that?
Who does that? No one does that.
I have been between my double ATST list. The other list that I was playing before the errata, which I want to play now with the changes in burst of speed, is Callus OP Vader. Because Callus with that ISB investigation, and then if you put seize the initiative on OP Vader, like you can basically have 2 1 pips where you have initiative for basically 2 to 3 rounds like in a row, with Vader having orders on all those rounds.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Plus, you got that second beat stick in there.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of holds back, right? Because it's like a weird Vader / gunline list, and he's back with the gunline. They're plinking away at stuff. Vader's doing Vader things, and then if you try to come in and do something, well, Callus also can, then tangle up and do some nasty stuff.
Yeah, Callus like switches to bow rifle mode and just goes in.
Yeah.
It's like that additional threat on top of everything. It's sort of like Luke plus 1 Wookiee. It's similar.
Yeah.
Or like what is it? I'm thinking like Vader IRG lists.
Mm-hmm.
There was like what was it? This list that won the French Open recently, or it wasn't called French Open. It was called like International Championship or something. It was in Paris. But I think the winning list was like Vader triple dewback double full IRG at 9 activations. Like that's another way list building is changing. By the way, is that activation counts are down. Like
Yep.
that's something that really changed. Like the thinking on activations is completely flipped.
Which I don't get, especially if you're melee, if melee is still important, because then the other opponent's melee can go after.
Yeah.
Right.
And can close that gap and can last first, rather.
Yep.
You open up last first if you have lower activations.
Yeah, and those last first attacks are extremely potent. especially with a unit like Luke who can pierce.
Yeah.
Or a unit
and
like
attack
Vader.
twice.
Right, and attack twice on top of it. So you've got like this. You're basically triple tapping at that point because you have your last attack and then you place on a Skywalker and then you attack twice. So it's 3 taps.
Or just using it to cross unfavorable terrain.
Right, just with burst of speed, perhaps.
Yeah, or like 24 inches you could get between 4 actions. That's almost across like the entire table.
Yeah, it's like what is it, like Dooku with Relentless on what is it?
Fear, surprise, intimidation.
Yeah, exactly. Dooku. We actually saw Dooku win recently too in Invader League.
Oh snap!
Speaking of which, so like that's another thing that the list building is changing, is that Force users are like making a big comeback. Force users were like, we were in the land of Rex, where no Force user was to be found almost, because it was Rex, or it was what was the other popular list when Rex was good? Double tank.
Yeah, and triple stabs.
And triple stab with no hero.
Yeah.
Or I guess Maul B2s, but Maul was uniquely positioned at that point against stuff like Rex, because Maul has 3 actions when he's wounded.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's interesting. So do you guys feel like when you're thinking about putting your list together in today's world, are you building your list and focusing on what you want to do, or are you building your list thinking about what you're potentially going to face in today's world?
You have to do both. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't just do whatever you want. Not every faction's good at everything. So like depending on your faction, you've got to play to your strengths. Rebels, I think their biggest strength is Pierce. So if you're not maximizing like Pierce for those Republic and Imperial counters, then you're losing out a lot. But at the same time, you have to be ready for separatists that don't care about it. So you can do some stuff that you want there, but you can't do everything you want if you want to win, at least.
You have what's his name? Shoot, he's on the tip of my tongue, but he's a chess grandmaster. Silman. He's a chess grandmaster, and says you have a responsibility to the position, which means you have a responsibility to what your faction is good at. Yeah. Is exactly what John is saying, essentially, is that like say I'm an Empire, right? I've got great melee options in Dewbacks, Vader, IRG. If I wanted to play Stormtroopers or Shore Troopers, I have, Veers and Krennic who can provide great control or recovery for offensive push. Or I've got, Imperial Officer with Spotter 2 with the Electro Binocular who can distribute aims fairly to my folks. You just have to look at what your faction is strong at and try to go for things like that. I was going to say, I think it also depends on the size of the tournament. If you're going to like a 10-player event or less, you can just run what you want, man. Like, it's fine. Just try it out. Those are the places like tournaments are not like, they're like a playground. They're like you practice with your friends, right? But then like you go to a tournament to figure out like what works and what doesn't work, and then you go to like a big tournament to figure out like how strong you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's where you figure out how strong you are. Like your local 10 or your 8 to 10, 12 people, you go there to like have fun and just like have a good time and talk to other people and play. And you can do that at the big tournaments too, but the big tournaments will really give you a sense of how strong you are as a player if that's something that interests you.
Yeah, I like how you put that, because that's definitely like local tournaments. Yeah, I think you could get up to like, let's say 16 or something. But like if you get to that number, like that's where you're trying out stuff and you're like, you know what, this is just local. Like it's fine if I don't make it all the way through. I'm not being quote unquote judged here or being put on the ELO rankings, right, John? Because it's under 20. And so, that's where you build and you practice and you figure out what works and what doesn't work, and you try to face as many, because I think local tournaments is where you face the most weird stuff, right? Because people are just bringing random stuff, and you may have not ever seen said combination before, and it's just good to see it and know what, in case you ever see ATST, let's say, on the battlefield, you're like, all right, I faced one of those. I kind of know what I need to do.
I'm gonna. This is a little story from X-Wing too, but I'm gonna share it. I was driving north to Oregon from California, and I was listening to, I forget what podcast I was listening to, but they said, like, this is an X-Wing, which has a much like higher number of games played, and they were like, yeah, if you go 0-1, you're in the jank tank, which is like, you're gonna find jank tank. You're gonna come up against some jank that's gonna kill you, and you'll have no idea what just happened. But like, if you want to stay with the meta, quote unquote, you have to like always win all your matches. But it's similar to what you said, Jay. It's sort of like meta only really matters to like the people who are winning constantly.
Yeah.
And you go, you can go to any tournament and field anything you want, but not anything you want. But you can field some reasonable lists and go pretty far. And like was what you said, John. Like the guy that went fourth at was it PAX?
No, it was New Orleans.
New Orleans, right? The guy that went fourth in New Orleans is running something no one ever saw before. And so that stuff can still break through.
Yeah.
We're in this really like kind of optimistic phase where people can try stuff out and stuff will work. People don't know what's best right now.
Yeah, and I think too, I think we've talked about this before, but like that element of surprise, especially now, is so good because there's so much out there. There's so many new players that you can't possibly have faced everything. Excuse me. You know what I mean? You can't possibly have faced all the different lists out there because there's so many different units out there that you could bring. You literally, maybe you've never faced one of the A85 speeder trucks because everyone stopped playing them for some weird reason. If you get,
they got nerfed.
Yeah. But they didn't get nerfed that bad. Like they got nerfed a little bit, but I still think that some of their fundamentals are still true.
That's definitely true. Like if I'm going to be absolutely brutal about the AA5, like I bought two and they haven't seen the table since the nerf.
Yeah.
So that's just me because I have a pretty brutal expectations about what my list should be able to do. Because I'm one of those players that wants to like win all the time. So
you want to win all the time?
All the time. Every time I want to win. I don't come. Okay, maybe 95% of the time.
Oh, see how fast he backed off that, ladies and gentlemen. I barely even questioned him.
No, well, because I tried to evaluate how true that statement actually was, and I was like, actually, yeah, there are times where I don't care.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't care. Most of the time, though, I care.
Well, it's like, it kind of reminds me because this whole talk about like going to your local tournaments, the 10 to 16 man tournaments or whatever, and just trying stuff out. It kind of reminds me of like comics, right? Like when a comic is working on their set that they're going to go record, right? They're going to all these local, like, stand-up places where they're just practicing,
or going to their friends,
right? Or going to their friends and like practicing it and working it out, and then pulling out stuff that's not working and putting new stuff in, and rewriting the jokes so that they land harder. And I think maybe we sometimes lose that in Legion because I find I do this, but I find you get comfortable with whatever list and you play it and you're not really working it out to like how to optimize it completely.
Yep. You're playing it because it's familiar.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I just want to play this and I don't really want to think.
Yeah.
I definitely have had games like that where it's just like, I'm running this because it's what I ran last week.
Right.
And I haven't had any ability to like, figure out what's wrong with it or what the optimization is, or maybe I forgot and I didn't write it down or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm in that now. Like, I'm definitely in a double heavy empire since the last LVO, really, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
I've been running it for years, before it was cool, all you kids out there. And yeah, I recently have thought, and that's why this Canto Bite tournament. I originally wasn't going to go just because I was like, I don't know if I want to go to a tournament, but then I was like, no, I need to go. I need to work out, and I need to bring something different and challenge myself and find. Even though it's probably going to be a double heavy of a different faction, but it's still like,
You gotta get Legion Swole again.
yeah, yeah. I feel I got a little bit of a taste of a win recently, and I'm like, oh, Jay likes that. Jay wants more.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
You won a game and you took a part of their soul
yeah,
and you ingested it and you were like, oh man, I feel the power coursing through me.
yeah, like Mortal Kombat.
I need to go reap more souls.
Yeah, and like use their powers against them the next time I fight them. Yeah,
it's like Highlander. Yeah.
So I think we covered it for the most part, but let's just go real quick. So if I'm building a list today and I got tournaments coming up, especially at LVO, Canto by Adepticon, Dallas Open, the new one that Stabcast has in May there down in Tennessee, like what are some of the things my list needs to be ready for? I know Melee is definitely one of them, right? What else?
Vehicles like armor skew.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yoda, Padme Saber.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw that out there because
and lightsabers.
And lightsabers, yeah.
Vaders.
Stinky cheese. Yeah. You gotta be able to handle it in some degree all of those things. And not every list can do it. And sometimes you're sort of like, I hope I don't face this. If you have your heart set on a list, you sort of have to like say, what's the likelihood that, this list that I fear is going to come up?
Right.
So, generally speaking,
I got really lucky in New Orleans that I did not face separatists because I don't think I would have fared well at all against them.
Yeah, like I was playing clones at a tournament recently and I got completely smashed by like Lando Luke triple sniper, but then he faced separatists on the next table and he got completely smashed by a separatist running like, double droid spider and BX commandos.
Which brings me to a point I want to iterate to people out there. When one player beats another, and then that player, like when A beats B and B beats C, that does not mean A can beat C.
Correct.
It is not transitive. So just because you beat I don't know. I hear that a lot and it bugs me. But this is a perfect example of.
That's how you really feel.
Oh man, people got to know.
They got to know. This is a fact. It's a bush fact.
There's no transitive property of lists.
No. It's rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah,
almost.
I would say, and I think that is a larger point, right? Like, David, I think you said it earlier, and it kind of ties in with this, is not that you can't bring any list, right? You can't really bring just any list, but I think there is, let's say, a couple dozen lists that you could for sure bring, and if you're an excellent pilot at that list, that you will do well. If you know your list and you know what you potentially can face and just maybe have even not the full answer to it, but like half an answer, and then you're kind of working it out. As long as you know your list and know what you're capable of, like I think you have just as much of a say in who wins as anyone.
The perfect example for this is Evan.
Yeah.
Evan Bulris. He has heart of a champion because he's the guy that runs triple fluttercraft when other people won't.
Yeah.
He'll run like lat triple speeder bike.
Yep.
And he'll go pretty far.
Yep.
He'll take those lists deep into tournaments. Yeah. Even if it's jank, even if this looks like crap, it's like, oh man, I just want to run this. And he does a really good job piloting what he runs.
He has always, since I've known him in the last like 5+ years and the 4 since we've been playing Legion, that is just his MO. He does the same thing in X-Wing. He's just like, I just like rule of cool. I'm going to play this because it looks cool on the table. And then he figures out how to win with it. Like
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, you just figure out what your list has to do to win.
Yep.
If it's overrun the enemy a dozen times, then that's what you got to do.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I think he's a perfect example of what we're saying, right? Like, if you have a pilot who knows the list and understands the game, then that person has a solid chance to go far.
Yeah, there's no hard wall that you cannot bypass right now.
Yeah,
which is why it's in a great position.
Exactly,
perfect timing for LVO.
There was a dark period where Rex was the gatekeeper.
There was a lot of dark periods.
There were. Tauntauns were the gatekeepers.
Rex gatekeeper.
Rex,
there was definitely like a dark
Boss
period
gatekeeper.
There. A little bit, yeah. It was never Sabine Luke gatekeeper though.
We almost had it. We
almost
built that gate.
We were close. It was Sabine. I had Sabine Luke double taunt, and I only lost to Mike Berry.
Yeah.
There was no reason other than my own mistake. I'm so mad.
Yep, I have a lot of those.
Wasn't it? I think it was Northeast Open, right? When
that was me, second place. Yeah,
it was John, second place. It was me at LVO LVO 20, the last LVO before COVID, where Mike killed 2 snipers before the game really even started, and I was just like, well, I guess I lose because Sabine can't go last anymore.
Yeah.
And it was Recover the Supplies versus Vader.
Oh man.
Which would have slow walking Vader.
Yeah, so it would have been an easy peasy, just like grapple line Vader in place and leave him alone.
Just laugh at him.
Yeah, it would have been really easy.
Man.
Yeah.
If I've been able to stay on 10 activations. I went down to 8 and I lost because I was at 8, which is interesting.
That is, I'd love to put this in. That is such a huge blow, especially back when snipers were big. Like, and I think in today's world, it's still the same. Like, getting that first activation against your opponent, and the sooner you can take away one of their activations or 2 of their activations, like, not only the gymnastics that they have to do in the game to like make that up, but like the mental gymnastics that end up happening when you're down 2 orders, like within the first 2 rounds, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's really bad for you. Luckily, I had a game under my belt in a pressure situation where I had been down 2 acti, and I was able to play it out, but it was really bad, and eventually it did catch up with me. But that's only because I played so many tournament games. I've like 30 tournament games under my belt at this point, because I've been playing since the game came out practically.
Yeah.
But that's rarefied experience. Not a lot of people have 30 plus tournament games.
That's true.
Anyway, I guess the point was that, especially back when snipers were really prevalent, like those 2 early activation losses were really strong.
Yeah.
Just a strong blow. And they still are, kind of. They just change all the math around surrounding like last first and things like that.
Well, and it's even like it changes what you want to do as a player, because let's say like an AAT wipes out, I don't know, just pick a unit, right? Like a regular squad or a naked squad of rebels or whatever, right? And you're just down in activation. Well, now your whole game plan is shifted, right? Because whether or not it should, it just does, because the panic starts to set in. Within that, there's that weird 2 round, like first 2 rounds, if you lose an activation, you're like, uh-oh, like that's not good.
Yeah.
And so units have to shift around and fill the gap, or like maybe this unit that you thought was going to hold the objective now has to rotate away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really like it can be really devastating. Like even one shot from like say a heavy into like say a rebel trooper you know, like suddenly I'm down three dudes, and that the power of this unit is heavily reduced, and I have to adjust my whole game plan around it. And then if I lose that unit, it's even worse.
Yeah, I mean, like especially if you see somebody like me across the table whose whole list is like two heavies. If you can take that first one of those heavies out within the first two rounds, like I'm kind of sunk for the rest of the game and playing catch up because my whole game plan involves those two heavies surviving to at least round 4, maybe round 5 if I'm lucky.
Right.
But all right. So that's kind of getting ready for tournaments list, what you should be looking out for. Let's run through what we believe are some of the best lists for each of the factions. Now, this is subjective because there's, like we said, dozens upon dozens of lists out there right now that potentially can be played. I would argue that there really isn't a meta, that it's shifting and evolving. But that all being said, let's have some fun and get controversial here, right? And pick some lists. What do you guys? What faction you want to start with?
We do rebels. We're both rebel players.
Yeah, we are rebel players.
A lot of thought into those.
Oh yeah.
So do we each want to pick one and then we can argue over it? Bushman, you first. What do you think? What's a list right now to look out for it with rebels?
I don't want to tell people to look out for it.
All right.
Because LVO's coming up.
All right.
No, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. We already talked about it 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Flyboys.
Yeah,
I think
Han Luke.
Han will get in your face at latest round 2 and remove 3 to 4 models every turn. Luke protects him from melee, and Luke is the beat stick he always was.
Yep.
So back it up with enough firepower, add Chewie to your taste and snipers, like it's nasty.
I still think triple Wookiee with Chewbacca is extremely strong. I think Cassian double T-47 extremely strong still. It's a little bit tough to say which is the best right now. The biggest issue I have is that there's a boogeyman in Republic that I'm going to keep coming back to. So it's like, how do I build a list in Rebels that can avoid Padme standby? Is like my big issue with playing Rebels right now. And I think the answer is you do T-47s and you just murder Padme as soon as possible. Like that's kind of what you have to do.
You have to murder Padme.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to happen. She's the linchpin of the entire list. And if you can get hold of Padme and get rid of her, then it gets a lot easier for you. And Yoda as awesome as he is only a 5 health mini.
Yes.
So
blanks do get rolled.
Just do damage
when you're tossing 6 dice that search to crit into stuff.
Even 1 or 2 crits at a time.
Yep.
Yeah, there's 2 blank sides on that red defense die.
Yeah, just make them roll dice.
Make him roll dice.
Yeah, and I would say I'm going to go, David, I'm going to agree with you. I think a double T-47, there's various configurations of it that I think are good. So anything with double T-47. And here's my controversial pick. I think that there is still a place, even though everyone's forgot about it, and maybe I'll bring it, who knows, but I think there's a place for the A5 speeder truck and Wookiees with maybe a Luke or something mixed in. I really do think that's still in the mix.
I want to hear why.
Yeah, I think because it kind of covers your bases. It's not like if I had to describe it, it would be like an all-comers list is my best, like the best way to look at it, right? Is that you have the melee to protect, you have Luke to do crazy stuff, you have the A5 that can deliver, it can block out, the A5 is very versatile outside of just tactician, I think, for the points and what it's capable of doing.
I don't think it provides enough firepower without tactician and without and for the points that it's at.
I don't think it needs to provide firepower.
Which goes back to cost too much to not be providing firepower.
I think I am always been a proponent of things like the Gav tank, even though it didn't make any sense, figuring out ways to make it make sense that shock people. And I think that a lot of that is still the case. And I think with all this, melee skew and different stuff going on, that having a big brick of cheese that can just like gum up a fire lane or, block something out from moving forward to an objective is still pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we can't ever discount Shriv with R2D2.
Yeah,
that's like one of the big things, and also like putting R2D2 in a close transport. Like,
yeah,
there's still that, and like I'll say like
intercept.
It reminds me, you can still get intercept. Yeah, it reminds me of Lupo, Daniel Lupo, when he ran a similar list to this at SoCal. He had a list like this, which was a lot of like this R2 tech kind of thing. It's like, oh, I got C3PO, I got Tactician, I got, all this aim passing, and like here's all this ridiculous crap that I can do with Cassian and Marksman off of Tactician. But like, even though Tactician got nerfed, even though people are looking at the bus differently these days, some of the bones of what was good about that still exist. And one of those bones is putting R2D2 in a close transport and sending it off to whatever objective you want to send him to, or secret mission, etc. So I mean, there's still some play there. It's just not. I think there's like a stigma of like, this is a nerfed unit now. Why should I play this?
Yeah, and listen, it got a little bit of a nerf, but I would argue, and I think I would argue though, it still serves the same purpose as it always did. And it's just maybe a little bit more expensive, but I think there's paths for it, especially in the way the meta is heading today. Just my thought.
An R2 in a closed transport is a lot scarier than R2 just alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot scarier, but it costs a lot more. It starts to get more fair.
Yeah.
Even though closed transports aren't really fair. Because it's like, yeah, you literally can't shoot him. Oh, I move him last. Oh, I disembark. I guess I get secret mission now. Rip. I win.
You get one shot at him before he moves back in.
Yeah, it's like 100. It's like 100 and what? It's like 130 point I win button. A little bit. So maybe some list incorporating that is still good for Rebel.
Yeah. See, I knew I could get you guys moved. All right.
I don't really still.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I'll play it at Canto Bite, and we can meet in the finals.
Oh, let's bring it.
All right, next faction. What do you guys want to do next?
Let's do it. Let's do Empire because it's the foil.
Yeah.
Oh God, something with Operative Vader.
Yep. I'd say Operative Vader gunline is one of the better ones. And then my second choice would be, I would say, because Rex and clones got nerfed, that I think there's a lot of opportunity for Empire gunlines to resurge. And remember the Krennic boss Death Trooper, Shore Trooper list that was popular 3 years ago. I really think that has an opportunity to be good again.
You can get there's a 10 activation Bosk Palpatine too. That's really funny.
Oh, the Wizard Lizard list.
Yeah, basically it's like there's no heavy weapons on the storms. It's all just like medics and electro binoculars, and they just stack Bosk with like 12 aims, and then he gets pulled the strings for 6 aims twice. It's really stupid, but it works.
Yeah.
And then if they get close to you, oh, Pal Bomb, here we go.
I would say, yeah, I love it.
It's so janky. It's so funny.
Empire is the jankiest, I think, of the factions right now, where there's so many random things. Because as I said that, I was like, well, I don't know. Like dewbacks are really good, and double ATST is really good right now. And I think that's to be seen with the spiders. They're going to be nasty. I just don't know how nasty yet. Like, you know what I mean? I just don't know what the effect is going to be overall and how many people are really going to bring them.
Yeah, I think some sort of full commit crazy melee skew is probably also really good.
Yeah.
For Empire with like triple dues. Vader double full IRG with Guardian. It's like, oh God, just like thinking about all the shenanigans. Like, yeah, I Guardian my dewback. Yeah, I Guardian Vader. Yeah, you shoot my royal guards, but I still got Vader and triple dews in your face. Yeah. It's like, it's a triple threat, man. I feel like coming at you.
Sometimes Empire does that where it's like, oh, you guys like doing this? Okay, well, we're gonna do it really disgustingly now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it always seems like Empire ends up doing that. It's funny. John, what do you think? Empire, any Empire lists?
I think Vader, definitely Vader. But I think we're gonna see a lot of people taking Vader without knowing how to do like lightsaber fights. Which is great until you come against a lightsaber.
Yep.
There's a little bit of an art to Force user on Force user.
Is definitely an art.
Yeah, and I would say Vader, like back when Burst of Speed and all that came out, like I had told the boys, I was like, you know, they were voting hard for Vader, but I was like, yeah, but people still don't really know how to use him. Even with Burst of Speed, like it's really tough to get like all the different variations, like the whole like standby force push into standbys is, you know what I mean? Like people don't really fully comprehend what a force user can do. And then Vader on top of it, what Vader is used for and what he's fully capable of.
Yeah, like if you want to get good at Vader, think of all the ways that you could use Vader's might. Like that's like
Vader's huge.
Vader's might is like the best card, like better than Implacable. Like the positional advantage you can gain with that card because it's a ranged throw plus like a free clamor check plus you can force push after it. You get all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, force push has been one of the strongest upgrades for a long time. And Vader's might is a better one.
Yeah. And like, similar to Dooku's 3-pip, you know, Dooku has a 2 force you to do it's his 3-pip, that you get the lightning attack and the mega force push because it's a speed 2
move.
Yeah. It's just so nasty.
Yeah, and for those of you that are newer, like that was one of the few counters to Tauns at the time was you could Vader's might him up onto some terrain that they couldn't get off of. You'd be like, all right,
it's just still silly.
Go ahead and charge stuff up there, you bastard. Like boom.
Yeah, you're on
sit up there now. Yeah, good luck.
The Tauns just like sit up there looking over the cliff like afraid to move. How do we get up here?
All right, David, I'm gonna let you do Gar. Go ahead. Tell us.
All right.
I think we know one of them already.
You know one of them already.
Yeah.
Yoda Padme Saber.
Yep.
That's definitely going to make an appearance. Someone will play the heel.
So what if someone doesn't come in range 2 of you?
Your Saber tank is going to just kick their ass.
But and it's only going to shoot once, right?
Yeah, but even one shot is enough. Sure. And if they don't come in range 2 of you, you win because your Saber is on the objective usually.
Okay, so you move the Saber up.
Yeah, you move the Saber up usually
like
once or
middle
twice.
Of the board kind of thing.
Oh yeah, you stuff the middle of the board with a Saber, and like if you can get wings on the side of you with like line of sight blockers, it's even better because your flanks are protected and you can hide your standby sharing pieces. So like you really want red in that match because you want the board edge to like figure out where you can fortress with the tank.
Okay.
And you like play like key positions, recover the supplies, like anything with a center. Hell, even evaporators, you can just drive up to red's evaporator, but at least then you're like forcing your opponent to expose the tank a little bit. But like basically anything you can think of, the tank can drive up on it and put a range 2 bubble around it and just say like, okay, you know, anything you really want to do in this part of the board, you might have to take two or 3 shots from my tank. Mm. And my tank is aimed because I've got Yoda and Padme.
Right.
So it's kind of silly.
Yoda seems so expensive to be doing that.
He is. But he's like uniquely good at it because he can standby. He can guidance Padme for a standby and then take a standby himself.
Yeah.
And then the tank can standby. Right, but if that's all he does and it causes you to win the game, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree.
It feels like a lot of egg, like even more eggs in one basket than Luke.
It is.
You're putting 400 points between Yoda and the tank and another 90 with Padme. Almost 500 points.
Yeah, you're only going to have 8 activations.
Yeah, and I think this is where like the truck would come into play, right? Because if you load the truck up with Wookiees, just drive it up and then they disembark, move scale into like a charge, like they could take Padme out, right? And then
they could, yeah.
You know, I think that gives you some of this closed transport that you were talking about, right? Like gives you some options to be like, yeah, all right, you got the truck, but I killed Padme and now I'm on my way to kill something else. You know what I mean?
Right. And like your Yoda now has to deal with my Wookiees, and Yoda only has 8 dice every turn because he's attacking twice.
Yep.
With what is it? Ataru Master, however you say it. Ataru. I don't know.
Ataru Mastery.
It's like Atari but misspelled.
So we got Padme Saber Yoda.
Anakin Saber Yoda. Or sorry, Anakin Padme Saber is another one. Jeez. I really like Anakin right now.
I know Kyle would agree with that.
Anakin's hot. Any Anakin Padme list is really good. Anakin Padme Wookiees is also really good, not just the Saber tank. I think
these lists feel like they're a lot more difficult to run than previous Scar lists.
They are.
Yeah.
Previous Scar lists, it was like anyone could pick it up. But I mean, there was still a difference in skill, like a skilled Gar player and an unskilled, but these feel a lot less straightforward to run.
Well, the difference was whether they shot with 5 aims or 2. That was the skill difference, right?
But I think that was one of those things where we used to say, David, you remember this? We used to say this all the time with Tons, right? Brex used to make bad players good players great, and great players invincible.
Yeah.
And now there really aren't any lists that do that. Like you have to be good at driving your list in order to be good now, right? And
I think so.
There's no auto like, I'm a bad player, but I just I net decked one of the scoundrels Rex Star lists, and now I'm going to be unstoppable at this tournament because
like Padme Yoda Saber is not an auto win. You have to understand all the rules that make it good. Like you have to understand that your tank can spend dodges from Yoda, and that those dodges cancel crits, and that you want to shoot at this really opportune moment or hold your standby for another move or something like that. There's things you can do to like really optimize what you're doing with it. It's not a list that you just pick up and play because it's very complicated.
Yeah, and I would say that that's the thing, right? Is like if you're winning with a list like that with 8 activations, you're earning that. It's not like you just put it on the table and you're like, well, I won. It's
just infuriating to play against.
Yeah,
it's infuriating. Sure. And my opponent, the times that I've played it, I just feel ashamed. It's like my opponent it feels horrible because my opponent has nothing. Like my opponent couldn't do anything that actually like gave him any leg up. It was
Does it feel worse than running triple Tons back in?
Yes, because at least Tons can die. The tank sometimes is immortal.
Yeah.
I think
What about fire supported pierced shots?
Oh, those are awesome too.
Okay, that's my plan for it.
That's why I run
Mark
Anakin and not Yoda. That's why I run Anakin and not Yoda.
Okay.
It's because Anakin has Pierce 3, Impact 3. And he can actually he can take a standby shot. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then he can like, go in there and hit the tank last first 2 times with fire supported shots, and he can probably kill it in window.
Saber throw with fire support.
Right, saber throw fire support, exactly.
Yeah.
With usually with an RPS, because it's like Impact 5 at that point. Impact 5, Pierce 3. So like any vehicle should tremble if I'm hitting it that hard.
Yeah.
That's why I like Anakin so much.
That's almost half an ATST.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Gone in one shot.
It's like
you don't need Pierce against ATST though.
It's like 5 or 6 wounds usually when I do it with an RPS. If I do it with a Z6, it's less, but it can still be pretty bad. Because the Z6 can crit sometimes on its own.
Right.
It's also really good when Anakin plays his 2-pip and he has native surge crit. So it's like, so you do that with a Z6, and it's just crits all the way down, and you're just feeling really happy about it. But yeah, I mean, I have to actually play that matchup, because if the times that I played Anakin against a saber like that, like even the conventional Padme saber, like before it was the standby machine with Yoda, like Anakin was always pretty good against it. It just depended on whether you got flawed or not. And even if you get flawed, you're running Clone Commander now, so you got 2 Commander tokens. And you got a direct. So you drop, what you do is you drop Attack of the Clones, and you just get as many of non-commander tokens on the board as possible, and you just draw into a commander. And you're like, great, you flawed me. Fantastic, I still got an order. You know?
John, you got any Gar lists?
No, because these 2 Yoda and tank lists are kind of like, I feel like pushing all the rest out just by the fact that they're so good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pretend to be Kala for a second here. So the internal faction balance of Gar is worse than the others, which is a really diplomatic way of saying Gar is broken right now.
Yeah.
In the sense that like there's only a couple of lists that are like really stand out, and the rest are kind of like fair. Miles behind.
Yeah, I think there's opportunity with Wookiees somewhere. I can't see it. Evan seemed to figure out some of it, but I think it was still missing.
I mean, you could do the same standby tricks with Wookiees.
Yeah,
you can.
With Yoda,
and they got a lot of peers.
Yoda, Padme, and Anakin with Wookiees.
Yep.
Yeah. And they got a lot of peers, which is good.
The 2 top lists, what is it? There was another big tournament that was won by Yoda Chewie triple Wookiee. But that was like 9 activation. That was another European tournament.
Okay.
I forget the name of it, but I know it was one of the big ones, and I forget if it was in France or if it was in Germany. It was one of those Western European ones.
Crazy. All right, let's do CIS. What do we think?
CIS.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I think B2s are still fantastic.
Agreed.
Especially with like Kalani supporting them, giving them 2 aims on their shots and dodges. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, bruh, like Roger with Kalani is stupid. Like, you only wish you could give them situational awareness.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I got 12 health and I cancel 2 crits.
I think there's a Kraken Magna Guard Spider Droid list. I think Cirillo played that at PAX, which probably isn't terrible. I think it still needs some finesse to work out, but I think it's in good place.
Yeah, so where Gar has the worst internal faction balance, CIS has the best.
Yeah, there's so many lists.
Just about everything is playable.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think there's anything not playable in CIS right now.
Cad Bane.
Droidekas?
Cad Bane, yeah, okay. I forget where I saw this. Someone was proposing that you could actually take a naked T-Series with a comms jammer, just run him into the enemy lines, and as soon as he dies, you promote Cad Bane to commander, so your triple Magna Guard can guardian him. Like, I don't know where I saw that, but it was pretty funny.
That's kind of wacky. I like that.
Yeah, that's just like, you just run him into the enemy. It's like, if you don't kill him, then you're just getting comms jammed the entire time. But it's just a funny list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to poop on Cad Bane too much. I think he's still pretty good.
I think he'll get better with the the eventual scum and villainy faction stuff that they're doing there.
Yeah, he just doesn't have like the buttery smoothness of coordinate that all the other ones do, and that like creates that really, really nice like synergy between the units, and like lets you put aggressive tactics wherever you want, and lots of good stuff like that.
So pretty much anything from CIS is
just
what we're
about
saying. Yeah.
The one
Cad
thing,
Bane.
Except Cad Bane.
That's for you, Bobby.
Yes. Isn't Bobby like a huge pro Cad Bane player?
Yeah, he when was that San Diego Open?
Yeah, it was
At
San
like
Diego.
one dinner, he was saying that he could take me on with Cad Bane.
Ah,
We haven't played that game yet, but
I hope it happens. I want to
Yeah.
see it and I want to cast it.
yeah.
I want to see Cad Bane do the thing because he doesn't really do the thing
No, he
that
doesn't.
often.
No.
The one thing I was going to say about CIS is that ion spiders are like, you might be really sad if you face another CIS list that has them and you don't have anything to do against them.
Yeah.
You might end up really sad. Like if your Droidicas come up against ion spiders, you're going to be super sad because they're just going to take away all your shields.
Yep.
But even just generally, like your B2s getting hit by ions, it's like, oh man, that really sucks.
Yeah.
Because I can't move and then shoot. Or I can't shoot and then recover because I lost an action. Suddenly all my units have to be, it's like as if they can all be suppressed because there's ion on the board.
Yeah, those things are, I think they're good. I don't know how good, right? Or if it's going to matter when they really come into strength, you know?
Right. Is it a meme is the question. I think like 2 ion spiders is probably fine. They're like they're not a 3 of, I think they're like a 2 of or a 0 of right now. The ion spider droids. That's just my thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like, I mean, unless they're charging the lines and getting use out of their detonate, which by the way, does not feel like it's that easy to do, then they're just ATRTs. They have an ion gun, but that's only great against heavies and separatists.
Yep.
So yeah, like David's saying, unless you're like, I wouldn't invest 3 into it.
It's still a 6 dice weapon at range 4 though, which is another good thing because it can meaningfully, if it's got an aim, it can meaningfully crit at range 4.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just consistent from a long way away, which is really annoying. But other than that,
you got to recover shoot, right?
Yeah, you got to recover shoot, but usually Kalani has you with
okay.
AI vehicle. What is it? Direct vehicle, and then like strategize. So you'll have an aim, possibly 2 if you tip link targeting array. There's a lot there.
Do you think? What do you guys think of the snail boy?
I think he's underused.
Yeah, I don't even know yet.
I want to see him transporting B2s and just like drive by, just blasting music and just driving by and just, hitting you at range 2 and having like permanent heavy cover on your B2s. I think they can be a really mean unit.
Yeah.
But I think they're a little bit probably going to be a little bit underplayed. The model's really beautiful. It's also massive. And so, like, I think that might discourage people from using it. But,
is it on an oblong base?
It's on an oblong base, and it's bigger than the Gav.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So those weak point 1 sides are probably pretty wide arcs.
They're huge. Yeah.
They're
very huge. But it's got a huge amount of health. It's like 11 health.
Yeah, it's ATSC health.
Yeah, so it's hard to chew through all that usually.
Yeah, I mean, I really, it's like almost a better Gav. Like I was like looking at it going, we were playing Stormtide the other day, and I was playing a droid list with with that, and I was like, oh, I really like this snail tank. Like, so I don't know. Who knows? I may play CIS. Bush, I don't know what I'm bringing.
Whatever it is, I'll crush it.
Right. Stuff some V2s in there, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
It'll hurt.
Stuff all kinds of stuff in there that's gonna bring Bush down to reality.
I don't live in reality.
No, you're the one that does. I live in dreamland.
Oh, that's right.
You're the numbers guy.
I got that mixed up.
I'm the artsy guy. I'm the arts and crafts guy over here. You're the one crunching all the hard numbers.
Oh yeah, I've got to do that still.
I think that was a pretty successful podcast, boyos.
I think so.
We did it. Take that, Kyle. Oof. All I'm just kidding. Hopefully,
miss
Kyle.
Kyle.
Yeah, I'm hoping he'll be back soon. He's still doing the paternity leave, which is awesome, and it's great. They have a new kid, and that's always interesting. The baby stuff is always interesting.
Oh yeah,
we talked about this before, David. Oh,
we did.
but I have teenagers now, so that's a whole different game.
Right, I have a 7-month-old, so that's totally different.
Yeah, every stage is different, right? It's like
yeah,
you're starting to get to sleep, so that's good.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. He sleeps through the night and doesn't really bother me. He goes to bed relatively early. In fact, after this episode is finished, I got to put him to bed.
Nice.
Yep. He's probably asleep downstairs already.
That's good. Well, all right, let's wrap it up. This is I feel weird saying, I was thinking about this today. I was like, well, Kyle always says we are the notorious scoundrels, but literally none of us are. And so this I mean, I guess I sort of am, but not really. You used to be, David, and I guess Bushfacts, you're an honorary scoundrel at this point.
Nice.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna, David. You'll go after me. All right, we'll do our little sign off. You ready?
All right. Go.
We are the notorious scoundrels. I'm Jay.
I'm David.
And I'm John. Bushfacts.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.